I'm not sure about that, but I think the questions were excellent. I mean, these are clearly legislators that are thinking very deeply, not just about the issues confronting Idaho, but the future of the country. And, you know, I think we're in similar boats, just like our states have had success. That's great. But we're all Americans here, and we want the country to succeed. And I've got I have a 4, 6, and an 8-year-old at home. I know most of the legislators have kids and grandkids. You start thinking about, what does that future look like 20 years from? What are we going to be, 75 trillion in debt? How do you square this circle? And so I just think people are really concerned about the future of the country. I think they asked all the right questions. I think they're thinking very, very deeply about it. And I do think the fact, like, if you just had the balanced budget vote separately, seems like there would be probably more support than the package that wasn't able to get the votes the other day. Yes?
What's the promise of DOGE? And then, a perfect example is you tried to give $1 billion, almost $1 billion back to the federal government, and couldn't even figure out how to do it. Now you met with Elon Musk, it's going to happen. Talk about the promise of DOGE and just that example of how messed up things have become.
So just for to what he's referring to, during the Biden administration, we rejected federal funds on a variety of things because they had strings attached. So some of the road funding, we had to do all the DEI and woke policies, which were totally contrary to our state's policy. We had kind of led the fight against that stuff. Now it's more fashionable to be against it. When we were doing it, we were kind of having an uphill battle. So we did it, and we told the Department of Transportation and the Biden administration, here's $350 million or however much it is. We're not using it, and they're like, we don't know how to take it back. They literally did not know how to take back the money. Same thing on refugee money to send back, I believe, to HHS. They didn't do. So I'm like sitting on almost $900 million. We're not going to accept it because we're not going to change our behavior. So let's send it back and be part of the DOGE efforts. So we went up and met with Elon on Friday in Washington, and he had one of his lieutenants there, and they were just like, you want to give back money? Like, yeah, we'll accept it. They got on the phone to Treasury, and like within like 30 minutes, we had a plan to do it, and so we have initiated that. And so what's the promise of DOGE generally? I think there's a lot of promise. I think when you see some of the spending that's happened, nobody justifies some of the grants that have been going out on some of these things. It was clearly taking taxpayer money and using it to push an ideological agenda. It was not about serving the interests of the country or what's in the public's interest. It was an ideological niche interest. And basically, these agencies had been taken captive by this viewpoint and used your money for that. So I think it's been great to expose. Here I think is the challenge, though. We're here talking about a balanced budget amendment because Congress won't change its behavior. Elon, and they're using a lot of savvy tech and all this stuff, are showing how the government mismanages money, but also just substantively, should government spend it on this? Because people have voted to do this in Congress for many years. Why are they doing it? How do you justify it? So you're running into kind of the momentum that Elon has with DOGE, with the fact that Congress has not been willing to change its behavior, right? So the most recent continuing resolution that the Republicans passed in the House funds everything that Elon had pointed out. It didn't change any spending from the Biden. In fact, that's a continuation of Biden's last year as president, basically, to do this continuing resolution. Now, what Elon will say is, well, they're not going to let these grants go out, and I think that's true. But ultimately, if Congress is appropriating the money, you know, at some point it's going to come to a head. Maybe you don't have to do a certain grant, but can you just impound everything? That's going to end up in court. There's a law on that. The solution is, if Elon's doing this, Congress should codify the DOGE cuts into law. There's no question Congress can do that. They have the power of the purse. But when you do continuing resolutions, that's just government on autopilot. So some people say, how could someone have said to do this? You know, Fauci, you know, I was very upset at some of the things Fauci was doing over the years, including these cruel experiments on these beagle puppies. Like, how did that end up happening? You know, I'm a dog owner. A lot of dog owners are looking like, are you kidding me? But it's because the bureaucrats have no accountability. It's an omnibus bill. It's a continuing resolution year after year, which is basically government on autopilot. If you don't have the prospect of having Congress rein you in by defunding your program because you behave badly, you're going to induce bad behavior. That's just the nature of it. So I think it's really a battle between DOGE and Elon and then the institutional swamp. And so far, I think that Elon's success has been limited to the executive branch. I have not seen Congress willing to step up and actually make these reforms permanent, which you're absolutely going to have to do. And we were talking earlier about Congress could balance the budget tomorrow, hypothetically, let's say, but it doesn't mean the next Congress is going to abide by that. They'll say, oh, we just came up with a 10-year deal to balance the budget. No, you didn't, because each Congress that gets elected, they don't have to abide by that deal. They can legislate with a clean slate. They can choose to increase spending. A constitutional balanced budget amendment, you can't legislate around that. That's the rules of the road, and Congress will be restrained from plundering us further into debt.